All right. Hello and welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really glad you're here. My name is Hong Win, and I'm part of the Careers and Professional Development team here at WGU. For anyone who is not familiar with our team, we're here to support students and alumni with things like exploration, resume and interview preparation, networking strategies, and connecting with employers across different industries. One of the things we're really proud of our team here and WGU is that these career services are available to you not just while you're a student, but for life as an alum as well. So today we're really excited to host another alumni featured session where we'll have the opportunity to hear directly from one of our very own um, about her career journey and lessons that she's learned along the way. I'm especially excited to introduce today's presenter, Stacey Johnson. Stacey is a WGU alumna, president of the WGU SHRM Student Chapter, and currently at Sevita as their HR manager and business partner. Her journey in higher education into HR is a really powerful example of how careers often evolve through unexpected turns, pauses, and pivots. Today, she'll be sharing a little bit more about her non-traditional career path, the lessons she's learned along the way, and how those experiences helped shape her approach to growth, adaptability, and leadership. Stacey, we're so grateful that you're taking time to be with us today and to share your story and insights with our community. So with that, I will turn things over to you to get us started.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That sounded really nice. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Stacey Johnson. I am based out of Minnesota, and we're just getting like third spring. I was just telling Hong, it's a little warm today, but it's going to get cold again, so I'm not fooled. But we'll take the warmth for a couple of days. I'm going to just share a little bit about kind of what's happened over the last 20 years and then kind of zoom into what's kind of happened in the last about 18 months. Um, I've been kind of all over the board as far as my career path, if you can even call it a path. I've really been in the weeds a lot. But I think that as things have moved forward, I can look back and see how each step has kind of gotten me to where I am today. So 2020 hindsight, right? So let's see. First thing, I currently work for a company named called Sevita Health. We are a leading provider of home and community-based specialized healthcare. So what that means in layman's terms is we have a lot of residential homes for people with disabilities, or we potentially provide services in home to people that need them. We've got a lot of different ways that we serve people, but that's our mission. That's what we do. We help and provide care for people every day. We've got about 45,000 people working on our team right now across the entire nation. And one of the reasons why I love this company is because we have very strong values, and you can see it in action at the company. The four main core values that we work with every day and we remind each other about on a daily basis are integrity, respect, inclusion, and growth. And there's a lot of things happening in the world today. You know, inclusion is not always at the top of anybody's list. You know, we're having layoffs across the board. Finding work is really hard. There's a lot of work happening on the Sevita side as far as retention strategies and trying to keep people we have. We're always recruiting across many different fields. There is a website, sevitacareers.com, if you want to look at what's available at the company that I work for. But just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of basics about kind of why I like it where I work. So just a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong learner, kind of. So I went to high school, graduated, and then immediately said, I am not going to school. I'm not ready. I am not serious enough. I've got other priorities. And so I didn't actually take my first college course until I was 30. I was terrified. It was at a community college, actually in Tacoma, Washington, somewhere near William. And I took that class. It was a remedial math class, and I was terrified. It was in person, and I passed. And I thought, wow, I can actually do this. Okay, I can learn still. So that kind of got me on the path to, okay, but what do I want to do? Like, who do I want to be? I mean, I'm 30 years old. I probably should know this by now, but I don't. So let's figure it out. Um, that led to the WGU Business Management bachelor's degree, which led to the Master's in Management and Leadership, which led to the MBA, which led to the Master's in HR Management, which I just finished last summer. And then I also challenged myself at the end of last year with the SHRM certification, which I passed on the first try, and I'm super excited about that. So that's kind of my wanting to learn and know a little bit about everything. I'm also a problem solver. I really love puzzles. I love kind of whodunit mysteries, solving like complex problems. I used to have a really strong hobby of genetic genealogy, which is kind of nerdy, but it was really interesting. I did my DNA test and found a whole section of my family that I didn't know that name or who they were, and really dug in and figured it out. And just that problem solving part of my brain just loves a good challenge. And then I'm a dog mom. I have two pups, Murphy, who is a 6-year-old golden doodle, and Milton, who is a almost 3-year-old Bernedoodle. And they are my two favorite coworkers. I do work from home, and they take more naps than anybody I know. I'm very jealous of them, but they're really good coworkers, and they're good for a mental health break every once in a while, because we all need that. But before we move on to anything else, I kind of alluded to earlier that 15 months ago, 18 months ago, probably, everything kind of snowballed. I was in a position at Sevita, great coworkers, awesome boss, but just really not feeling challenged. And I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I wasn't happy where I was. And so I started kind of thinking again, do I go back to school? Do I want to do something else? Do I want to look outside of this company? And what ended up happening is an HR role came open, and I thought, wow, I think I'd really like HR. A lot of people that I've stayed in contact with at previous employers are in HR. There's some link there. I like HR people seem to be my people, and I haven't really figured out why, but maybe I should look into that more. Well, an HR role came open, and I applied for it, and I thought, I have to get this role. This is going to be fantastic. These are my people. Interview went great. I thought everything was wonderful. I don't get access to knowing who else applied. And so I did not get the role. It went to a much more qualified person who had been working in HR in the recruiting field for this company for like 13 years. Absolutely the right choice. They went with the right person. But I was heartbroken because I feel like I had found where I want to be. I found my niche, my people, where I really felt like I fit. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do about it? They're probably not going to have another HR role come open very soon, maybe on the other side of the country, and they do work virtually. So maybe I could work for another division. And that's when I remembered that the WGU had started an HR master's program right as I was finishing my MBA. And I remember thinking to myself, maybe that's my next one, but I need a break. So I went to WGU's website again, and I looked it up, and I thought, do I want to do this? Is this really where I want to go? And so that's kind of how we got on the track for this 18 months of craziness. So my detours in the last 20 years, just kind of zooming out again, I've worked in customer service, both as a direct pick up the phone and take the next call customer service rep, in customer service management, as a trainer, as an account executive, which means inside sales. I'm trying to sell you something. I'm trying to build a relationship with you and fill your needs. A clothing retailer. I've worked as an office manager and administrative assistant. And then my last role before the human resource manager and business partner was as an executive assistant for a vice president. And all of these roles in some way were helping me to figure out where I wanted to be. I didn't know it at the time, but they were narrowing the path, I guess you could say, and just kind of pushing me towards where I am today. So what's a human resource business partner? Different companies, call it different things and maybe have different job descriptions. But at Sevita, what it means is that I'm going to partner with the field and try to help advise them on how to reach their goals. My goals at my review at the end of the year are the exact same goals in the field. I might not actually be able to have the conversation directly with the employee on a stay interview or retention or that kind of stuff, but I'm advising them on what the best practice is so that they can make those impacts directly to the employees. helping to lead and support strategic projects and implementations. If we have a new system, if we have an engagement survey going out, if we've got, reviews that need to be completed, running those reports, sending those out, kind of following up, making sure that things get done. Helping with bonuses, performance reviews, doing trainings, compliance, lots of audits. Let's see, the talent assessment and succession planning is something that we're working on right now, which is definitely a big part of our company right now with the growth that we've had. We've really gotten great at HR data. And so we've got a whole Power BI system. I've gotten really good at reading that and kind of finding the business case for what changes need to be made. And then just leading that engagement, retention, and culture initiatives. I'm active on the Inclusion Council. And I try to, look at exit survey data at least once a month, just trying to make sure I'm providing that feedback back to the field as frequently as I can. And what it takes is strong communication and relationship building, being comfortable with metrics and data and presenting on kind of recommendations based off of that data. Project management is huge. There's always a complex set of initiatives that are happening, and they all have to happen at the same time. And depending on who you talk to, a lot of them or all of them are the highest priority. The ability to influence without authority is a huge one. The people that I'm trying to influence are executives. They are doing jobs that are very different from mine. And so building that relationship is what helps with that influence and making sure that they're comfortable with my background and my experience. And then flexibility and kind of knowing that priorities shift fast. Like I said, there's always about 10 different priorities. And depending on who I'm talking to, I got to make sure that they know that their priority is my priority. That really helps with the relationship building too. So there have been two different classrooms that I've had where I've been building skills towards this role. The first was at my previous employers, at my previous roles. So in customer service, I'm listening to understand. I was the customer service manager for a time, so I had got all the escalated calls, conflict resolution, empathy and emotional intelligence, and communication, obviously. As a trainer, I learned more about kind of adult learning principles, how to train somebody who is already in their field, and facilitation, presenting, giving feedback, and identifying people that have high potential that maybe would be otherwise overlooked. As an account executive or inside sales, that's relationship building, influencing without authority, handling objections, and obviously having the confidence to, make those recommendations and talking to people all day, every day. The clothing retailer, I had to do all the recruiting and the onboarding, the compliance, the budgeting. It was like owning my whole business all by myself. All the decision making that needed to happen with very incomplete information a lot of the time. Office manager, obviously collaboration, trying to get everybody on the same page, a lot of process improvement, resource allocation and documentation and record keeping was a huge part of that role. And then the executive assistant role, obviously I'm working for a vice president. I have access to a ton of confidential information. So making sure that I can make sure things maintain their confidentiality, reading the room, kind of being able to read the subtle differences between people, anticipating people's needs. And my kind of secondary title was chaos coordinator. There is always a lot going on. And so if somebody needed something, the answer was just call Stacey. And that was probably my favorite part of the job because I didn't know all the answers, but since somebody was asking, now I get to ask. And so I got to be kind of have my hands in all the pots for that role, which was a lot of fun. But one thing you'll notice too is all of these skills are also something that's really important for HR. We need the compliance, we need collaboration, we need the process improvement and documentation and confidentiality and relationship building. All of this was pushing me toward an HR role. In addition to that, I went back to school multiple times. First for business management, learning about organizational structures, managing people, ethics and business decision-making. The management and leadership degree was really one of my favorites. Really learning the difference between managing and leading, what drives human performance and behavior. Change management is huge in HR and strategic thinking. And then leading diverse and dispersed teams. So many people work remotely now, so that's another skill all on its own. The MBA degree was probably my most challenging degree. This is where I realized that I did not want to be an executive. I did not want to manage a book of business and be fully responsible for all those financials. It was terrifying. I passed, but it was a big challenge. That financial acumen is where I picked that up, and then making the case for decisions using data and evidence, marketing and understanding what drives human behavior. And then finally, this last master's degree, employment law and compliance, which actually is more interesting than you think. HR analytics, which again, that goes into my problem solving kind of hobbies. Strategic HR, moving from transactional to transformational, and then organizational development and culture. So all of this kind of pushed me to knowing that I wanted to be in this HR role. And I started the HR program in February of last year. I did not have my HR role at that point. I had decided that I, wanted to move in that position, but I looked at my LinkedIn profile and I didn't see HR anywhere, literally nothing. And I was really deflated, and I reached out to a recruiter that I had worked with at Sevita, and she looked at my resume and she goes, "You've got a ton of skills on here that go toward HR." And I'm like, "What are you seeing that I'm not?" And she started picking out all of these skills from this slide, from the skills built at work. And she's like, "You've done this and you've done this and you've done this." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but is that really enough?" And she's like, "It's something. You need to broadcast that. If I'm an HR recruiter, I'm looking for this stuff. So you telling me that you did schedules or that, you did the event planning and stuff when you were an office manager, that's great. But if I'm hiring for HR, irrelevant. I don't care." So she helped me to understand that the skills that I needed to focus my resume on was this stuff. This needed to bubble up to the top somehow. And I also was realizing, okay, I can now put on my LinkedIn profile that I'm in my master's degree program for HR. So officially HR has made the resume. What else can I do? I got an email. All of a sudden I found out there's a SHRM chapter, a student SHRM chapter. And I'm like, get me in there. Like, how can I volunteer? Put my name somewhere. I need a membership. I signed up for the student SHRM membership, started digging into all their resources. And really it just became anything that I can do to put myself in front of an HR representative or an HR professional, or in a virtual setting or an in-person setting, even related to HR, I wanted to make sure that the people I was around were where I wanted to go. And what I didn't say to myself was, I'm going to go network, but that's what I was doing. And that's terrifying for me. I'm an introvert. I do not enjoy, big crowded rooms of people, but ultimately what drove it was the passion that I had for knowing finally where I wanted to go. So it was like, I'll go into a room full of HR people. I have a lot to learn from them. I absolutely want to put myself in that spot. Whereas if it was just a room full of random people, that's a little scarier. So I put myself in a lot of rooms that I typically wouldn't put myself in, and made sure everybody who was willing to listen knew that this was my goal. This is what I was working for. I'm working on my master's. I joined SHRM. I'm working with the chapter. I'm doing all these additional trainings and things that I can find through the SHRM membership. And so that kind of pushed me along to making sure that I was, getting in front of the right people. And so when the next role became available, I was the next logical choice. I applied for that role, and I did get the HR business partner role in July of last year, the same month that I graduated with my master's. So I was like snowballing everything all together at the exact same time. So it was really exciting. It kind of felt like the universe was saying, yes, you're on the right path. We're going to make this a little easier for you now because you finally figured it out. We've been trying to tell you for 20 years, but you finally are listening. So some practical advice that I would have for people that are either trying to get into HR or just trying to move into a different industry. It doesn't really matter if you're ready. You kind of have to start before you're ready, because if you're waiting for the perfect moment, it's fear with a planner. And this spoke to me so much because I am somebody that will prepare, and never actually take the first step. That's the terrifying part for me. I feel like I never know enough to actually do the next actual active thing. So just start before you're ready. It's going to be fine. Just take the first step. And your detours really are data. Every role that you actually find yourself in is going to tell you something about it, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. So pay attention to that. It's trying to help narrow where you want to end up. If there's a credential available for what you're going for, I say go for it. There's scholarships available for the SHRM certification, and for other certifications that are out there. It really does build confidence and remove barriers and kind of get you a little bit more credibility. I will say, just as a sidebar, I have talked to so many people. I signed up for my SHRM test date in June last year. So before I graduated, and before I had the role in HR. And so I was like, I wasn't expecting it. I should try for this certification thing too. So I'll do that. Signed up for it, and my test date was to be in December. And as I talked to people and started finding my resources and doing studying and everything, everybody I talked to said, oh, it's going to take like 3 times to pass. It's really a hard test. A lot of people don't pass on the first time, lower your expectations. And I'm like, well, that's terrifying. I don't want to do something that I'm going to fail at. I'm really bad at failing. That's terrible. But what I have personally found and seen from a lot of student peers that I've had is that, the less experience that you have in HR, like I'm brand new in HR, I don't bring any baggage from how I've done things in the past, the easier the test is. Now, I can't promise you that's going to be your experience, but it seems as though one of the biggest barriers for people that have 20 years experience and they fail, it's because they're answering questions from the perspective of what they would do in their current company. And SHRM asks questions from the perspective of, you have everything you need. Budget is not an issue. Staffing is not an issue. Assuming the best situation, what would you do? And just people don't have that. That's not reality. So if you aren't thinking from that perspective, you're probably going to answer most of the questions wrong. Let's see, but also find your people early, find mentors and peers, and even some like rivalry, people that are doing the same thing that you are, and you're kind of playing off of each other, because your network really can save you. It really can, perk you up when you're having a hard time with a class. Maybe they can be a study buddy with you and, go back and forth with flashcards, or mentors can, help to make sure that you kind of are making the right decisions and getting in the right rooms, and can help to give you advice that way. So that's my practical advice related to like SHRM or WGU HR, moving into wherever you're trying to get to. But WGU related, please use the career resources that are available. I had graduated with 3 of my degrees from WGU before I looked at this page, and it took me weeks to get through everything. There are so many resources. We have Handshake. I mean, that's where there's job opportunities, internships, networking, educational events like this one. Big Interview, that's kind of newer, I think. It helps to improve a resume, offer practice interviews, and like some personalized feedback. LinkedIn Learning is free as a student and as an alumni. There are thousands of courses there. You can even get like certifications. JobScan, that's where you can use AI to compare your current resume or a LinkedIn profile to job postings. So you take a job posting and you upload it next to your current resume, and it compares it and gives you feedback on, okay, you're kind of lacking in this area, or you're really great over here. Pathway U is a career assessment tool. It gives the ideal career path suggestion by matching your interests, values, and personality with open job opportunities. Let's see, Ask a Grad. That one is kind of newer too. It's a way for students to ask, or alumni to ask other students or alumni questions about their experience, about, resources, about just anything that they might have a question about related to the programs or WGU. WGU Achievement Wallet. That one is a place to showcase skills that you've learned at WGU. And if you have any verified credentials, you can link those in there also. And then the career coaching services and all the other, there's videos, and there's templates for resumes, and there's so much stuff. Like, you just get into this career services page and there are links and links and links for days. If you don't find what you need, you probably just aren't finding it. It's not that it doesn't exist. So ask a question, call somebody, make an appointment. There's so many resources, and it's so underutilized. Like I said, I didn't use it until I was finished with my third degree. And then I finally looked at it and went, if only I had known. I just didn't read the email. But some other reminders: you're not behind, you're on your own timeline. Don't be hard on yourself. Just take the first step. Every experience that you have counts. If you decide that it does, you can correlate a lot of skills and a lot of experiences to wherever you're trying to go. HR in every industry needs people that do have real world lived experiences. So, your experiences are not in the wrong field, which is what I kept telling myself. I didn't have HR on my resume. I hadn't written it right. So once I redid that, it looked very different. And nonlinear paths build leaders. Linear paths typically build specialists. So if you know exactly where you want to go and you are just linear straight there, good for you. That's awesome. That was not my experience. I am a little jealous, but I think that my nonlinear path has helped me to know that, I can take some, detours and kind of go around the wrong corner and turn around and come back. And I can still get there. It takes a little longer, but we get there. And then the only wrong move is really convincing yourself that you're out of moves. Like, there's always a next step. And if you can't figure out what it is, ask a peer, because people outside of your situation can definitely help you to, find those networks or opportunities or rooms to put you in, and connections. And so don't be shy when it comes to, trying to figure out where you're going to go next. So that was a lot of words, all from me. If you want to connect with me, if we're not connected already, this QR code should take you to my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with me. I have the link in there, also my email. And then if you are on WGU Connect, I do have a profile there also as alumni. And so I'd be happy to connect with you there also. But that's pretty much everything I've got today.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Stacey. I also started my early career in HR as well. So I got started in recruiting, and the aspect of being able to make an impact in such an important part of someone's life was, really cool to be a part of. And when I told my friends I was in HR, they're like, "Oh, like, aren't you a part of the Toby Club? Like, everybody hates HR, and I hate my HR." And I'm like, "Man, that's so tough to hear." But it's such a staple. Everywhere you go, every industry is always going to need HR specialists and professionals. So this was such great insight. We'll go ahead and open it up to any questions. Feel free to drop those in the chat here. And I can start with one. I know you kind of mentioned all your little pivots and being so sure about going for, the HR field, even though you didn't feel 100% ready. A lot of the questions we get with pivoting or starting somewhere new is dealing with imposter syndrome. Was that something that you ever experienced? And if so, what were some ways you tried to overcome that?
Yeah, so I had imposter syndrome, and it creeps up every once in a while still. Since I'm the newest one on my team, I know the least, and that makes sense. That's logical. I'm still learning. I'm in the role for less than a year. But when I finally decided, okay, yeah, I really feel like these are my people. This is where I want to be. This is the team I want to be on. And I looked at my resume and just went, I don't have any idea how I'm going to get there. I don't have any real experience. Like, this is kind of a pie in the sky, crazy idea. What makes me think that I'm going to be what they want? Like, anybody looking at my resume is going to say, yeah, she might be excited about it, but that doesn't mean you can do it. And so finding somebody who could look at my resume and knew my passion and knew me personally. So the recruiter that I had talked to, she was really able to help me kind of slow down and say, no, you're ready for this. Like, this, you got this. There are a couple of steps that, yeah, we're going to easily bump bump up your resume a little bit. We're going to rearrange how things are organized so the recruiters see what we want them to see. Everything else is there. We're not lying. We're not misrepresenting, but they're looking for HR related skills. Everything else is fluff. Yeah, that's great. You can plan an event, but we want to see what you have done. And so really starting to take a hard look at all the roles that I had and say, what relates to HR at any, I mean, at all, and just rearranging everything. And it became a really long list. And that really made me feel like, okay, I do know some stuff. Like I don't have a degree. I don't, have any experience, but I'm going to get in a room with a bunch of SHRM people. And I'm going to get in a room in a SHRM chapter where everybody here is for looking for the same type of engagement and enrichment. So I just everything that every step that I took towards an HR anything kind of helped me to feel a little bit more ready.
Mhm.
So that when that next role came open, I was like, I'm going to put it all on the line. I don't have the degree yet. I'm working towards it. I'm doing all this other stuff. If nothing else, they're going to see my passion. If nothing else, they're going to see my energy for HR. And that hopefully will fill the gaps that I don't currently have. And I think it worked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Stacey. I know with these clubs and just the community that you find in the industry, you're interested in too. I know, like you mentioned, it's a little nerve-wracking or makes you, feel overwhelmed, but anytime you've gone to events, it sounds like people's been more than willing to help and engage thoughtfully. So I think that's great encouragement to all folks who, also feel a little overwhelmed. Attending these events, it's not just, what you can bring, but people are looking to share insights. They're looking to build community. So I think those are great mentions. And we do have a couple of questions here. Does everyone working in HR need to have a SHRM certification?
I would say absolutely not. Most people that I work with do not have a SHRM certification. My motivation behind the SHRM certification came because while I was working with the SHRM chapter already, so I was already kind of trying to figure out what is the SHRM thing and what do they stand for and what are their principles and what can I learn from them with this student membership? And the answer is a lot. But then started talking about certification. And like I said, when I signed up for my test date, I didn't know that this role was going to come open. So I was thinking 6 months from now, if I don't have an HR role yet, at least I can be continuing to study HR related materials, putting myself in HR rooms, and then studying to potentially have another HR something on my resume. So my motivation was not because it was needed for the role, because anybody else asked me to get it or thought it was a good idea or required it. It was just another way for me to continue studying the HR field, putting myself in rooms with people, and it just helped me to feel more confident when I actually, got the role. So no, definitely not needed unless they stated explicitly that they would like you to have a certification. And most companies feel strongly about it one way or the other. They either for sure you have to have it, or it's like it's a nice to have. It's not a make or break. So if you can afford it and it's you want to learn it, I say go for it. It was a
Mhm.
great experience for me, but definitely not something that is required.
Yep, yeah, and I did drop the WGU SHRM chapter information in the chat as well, so please feel free to check that out. And as Stacy mentioned, great cohort for you to join and build community and gain resources and ask questions. So definitely check that out. Next question here: what advice would you give someone who was thinking about going for a master's degree? Which master's degree would you recommend?
That's a really big question. I would say if you are at all considering the master's degree programs at WGU specifically, I would print all the program guides that they have and look at the course names and read like the syllabus that they have, because they do a really good job of explaining what each of the classes are going to be, trying to teach you. And when I did my first master's degree, I chose management and leadership because I knew I wanted to work with people. That's one thing that has always been a constant for me. Like if I'm not making an impact to a person, that it really just kind of feels like this is all for nothing. Why are we here? I want to help people. I want to make an impact. And so I'm like management and leadership. And yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. All the coursework was totally just down my alley. It was perfect. But then as I, moved on, it was like, well, I need more of a business background. Let's do the MBA. And like I said, that one was terrifying. But if you're looking to move into an executive role, if you want to have more experience with like, managing a big budget and maybe opening a business or running a small business or, working for a small business, and you're one of the key people, the key managers, you kind of got to wear a lot of hats. And I don't know if it's changed recently or not, but the capstone for the MBA program was so fun, but also really, really challenging. It's a business simulation, and you go through just all these different details of, okay, you made this choice, but now your competitor did this. Now what are you going to do? And it's just like you have to kind of think it and put everything from the whole degree plan into this capstone. But for me, my most recent one, the HR Masters, was probably the one that I got the most out of, simply because my heart knew this is where I was going. So if you know where you want to be, absolutely pick the one that makes the most sense for you. But if you're not sure, starting with like a management and leadership one, that is transferable to any role, even if you don't end up in management, knowing what it looks like, knowing, how to have communication and collaboration with different groups of people, cross departmental. I mean, all of that is in there. So kind of depends on where you want to go, but I mean, or you could reach out to, one of the recruiters for WGU, and I'm sure they could help answer some questions too. They've got a great support structure for incoming students to kind of help and make sure that you're going down the right path.
That's great. Thanks, Stacey. Next one here, I'm currently an HR assistant. I really like your explanation on being a business partner. I feel like that might be a path I want to take. Any suggestions on what I should do to go down that specific path? I already have a good amount of HR experience, no business partner experience though.
Yeah, so the biggest thing with the difference between kind of like a specialist or generalist role and the business partner from the company that I work from. So it could be different in different companies. So if there's a business partner role where you work, or if you've seen a company that you'd be interested in, look at their job description and what they would be looking for specifically to make sure you're, trying to go toward the right types of skills. But for where I work at Sevita, it's more understanding data, because a lot of people in the field, especially since we work in human services, these are people that are passionate about people. They are not excited or really proficient at reading an Excel spreadsheet and understanding what data means. And so from a business partner standpoint, one of the most important things that I can do is I can take all this data that's being dumped on them, that is all very important, that they need to make decisions based off of, and help to put it into a story that makes sense to them so that they can make better decisions to move them toward their goals. So anything with data analytics is really big right now when it comes to business partnering. The whole influencing without authority is a big thing. Change management. I can't tell you how much things change in HR. It is a constant, like, revolving door of initiatives and priorities and people, and just it's an endless flow of change. And so if change scares you, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to practice it and you have to learn how to respond to it, the way that you want to respond to it. So um, those are the types of courses I would maybe look at. And if you're already a WGU student or alumni, there's a lot of courses for this type of stuff, at least surface level in like LinkedIn Learning. And so you could even take a free course there and just take a look at it and see, okay, is this at all interesting to me? Do I want to dive in deeper? Is this the kind of the path that I really want? And so those types of things I know would be really helpful for a resume if you were wanting to move in that path.
Yes, that's a great one. Next one here, since I don't have experience in the HR department, I'm an analyst. The best way to show you have experience is completing a new resume. How do you find which experience would relate?
Yeah, I would go and look up a handful of either job descriptions, if you can find them, like postings, and really just see what the common denominators are. Like, what are the most common things that an HR role that you're looking for is what like companies are looking for on a resume. Because like when you use like the job scan tool, that you're literally taking a job description and your resume, and it's saying, here's where you're hitting, here's where you're missing. And so that can really help you. But also, like, looking at my 20 years of experience, all these keywords and collaborator and, teamwork and, communication, that kind of stuff, that I found those words by looking at job descriptions and by talking to people who are recruiters and they know what they're looking for. And so really just making sure that, you've got the analyst side of things, the data doesn't scare you and you could really sell that. But then can you sell your people skills? Have you taken those courses? Can you clearly show that on your resume that you have collaborated across, teams and, built project management tools and kept people on time and that kind of stuff. So looking at kind of some of the job descriptions and using JobScan or talking to a recruiter, I think would be a couple of things you could do for that.
Thanks, Stacey. Let's see, next one here. What does a strong partnership between HR and business leaders look like to you? How did you ensure trust with those leaders early on?
Yeah, it's literally blind trust for them. When I started, they were part of the interview process, the two executive directors that I support currently. So they had a hand in choosing me, which I think helped them a little bit. That won't always be the case across different companies, but that I think helped them a little bit. But then also just really listening to understand, because I could have walked in there and just said, hey, I'm an HR business partner. My job is to XYZ. Here's your information. This is what it means. Go forth and prosper. But instead, like, my agenda was, tell me the problems you're facing in the field right now. What are your biggest employment, retention, overtime, all the initiatives that HR is responsible for, engagement, that kind of stuff. Where are your biggest barriers? What are your known issues that you've tried to solve, or trainings that your team needs? And so really just focusing on what they already know. They're the experts. They know what they need. Now they don't know what I have to offer yet. So I need to take what they tell me and kind of morph that into the HR version of, a training package to help them reach those goals. And sometimes what they're thinking they need to be focusing on is something very different, or maybe they don't really understand that how we get to where they're going is on a completely different path. There's a whole different way of doing this that will actually get you there faster and easier and more efficiently. And a lot of the times has to do with that data side of it. But starting with data, it can be terrifying to field leaders. They don't want to see a report. They don't want you to tell them that their metrics are low. Then you are not listening to them. They have people problems. They want you to solve the people problems. And a lot of the time I can't solve their people problems, but I can highlight some solutions and then they can choose which ones make the most sense, either financially or for their personalities or for their specific issue. And just really try to help them see it from maybe a different perspective, or offer to kind of shine a light on something that maybe they haven't seen before. When I get a problem that's placed in my inbox because this happened or that happened, or this program has way too much overtime and I have no idea why, that's my cue that I got to dig into the data. I got to go figure it out. And so I'm pulling reports and I'm doing pivot tables and I'm creating charts and trying to make it into something that I can show them that will make sense to them. I'm not going to send them a report. They're not going to read it. I need to make a chart that shows, yes, we're trending upward. It looks like it's because we had these terminations, or these 3 people are out on leave. We can't replace these ones because they're on leave, they're job protected, but these ones have been termed. We need to make sure we have open recs, checking all those different things. And so there's just so many different ways that we can help leaders. And as long as you kind of know where to look for different things, they're going to learn to trust you. They're going to learn that you are like their right hand. You're going to poke holes in their story. You're going to you're going to use your red pen to help them, not to grade them down. Like, we're going to fix this before we turn this in. Like, let's work together, and so I think that's really helped for my executive directors to really know that I want them to succeed. Like, my whole purpose, my whole job is to support you in reaching your goals. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is a lot of great insight and reminders into, why HR is such a I want to say powerful industry, because really you're not just supporting, the employees, but it's the leaders. It's those that are making these decisions, and you're the expert. You're someone they value and they turn to. And so also for our attendees, very great questions, a lot of thoughtful engagement. So thank you all for those as well. Next comment here from William. I have no HR experience either, but I have a MS degree now. To expand my network, I'm going to Dallas in April to the SHRM Talent 2026 conference. I decided I will step outside of my comfort zone and do something to meet people who are doing what I'm interested in. That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Have fun,
Love
William. I'm not going to that one. I'll be at SHRM conference in June in Orlando. So let me know if you're going there.
yes, yes. They always have such powerful speakers there. I think I saw Oprah will be one.
Yep. Oprah and I think is it John Maxwell
Oh,
is
wow.
going to be there. They always announce like the really big names right at the beginning and then right toward the end. So we probably won't hear a ton until we get closer now, but
Yep, yep.
the big names.
Yeah, and William, I'm going to drop a networking toolkit that we have through the Careers and Professional Development resource as well. This is a great worksheet to kind of go through. It'll guide you through some of the things to consider that will help you feel a little bit more prepared as you go in to chat with people, meet new people. So things like, what are your goals? What's going to be your elevator pitch? So that you can practice those, and hopefully that'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable in those settings. The other thing I will also mention is if you just do a quick search on Google, LinkedIn, if there's different HR related groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, even, sometimes there'll be local communities, HR chapters in your local area, different recruiting or HR collectives or groups, and they'll host some free events as well. So they'll do networking, they'll do coffees, they'll do some virtual webinars. Also, a great way for you to sign up. I always do the ones that are free, and there's a good handful of those out there. And then I always drop in the chat like, hey, happy to connect and learn from each other's insights. And I'll drop my LinkedIn in there, and usually I'll get a handful of new contacts that way as well. So I think that's a great way to expand your network. Yeah, next one here. Love that you brought up lead without authority. That is so much finesse. Can you share an example?
Oh, I feel like that's what I do all day. I get emails all the time from the field leaders and they want to do something. And the answer is no from HR. But I'm not their boss. I'm not somebody who is trying to dictate what decision they make. So my job is trying to influence them by making sure that they have the best information possible to make the best decision. So if they're coming at me and say they want to terminate somebody, I want to know all the details. Give me all the background. The answer isn't no, of course not. Maybe the answer is yes, but we need to get there first. Like just asking is not appropriate. So just give me all the context, all the background. Let me pull all the reports. Let's check all the data points and really talk about it and understand. Something that one of our internal trainings does really well too is let me back up. One thing we don't do very well is some of our newest leaders don't get the best training. They get hired and promoted because they were great doers, but now they're leaders and they haven't necessarily been trained on how to lead. And so when I know that I'm talking to a newer leader, somebody who's maybe just been in the role for like less than 6 months, a lot of times my focus is more on like, how did you get here? What information did you pull? Let me show you where everything else lives. Let me make sure that you have access to everything you need to have access to. And then really helping them to understand that, when we're talking, especially about people, you have to check your bias. And one way to do that we've really been trying to ingrain into all of our leaders, all leaders, is swap the name. So if I'm asking to terminate Sally Sue, and I am sure that I have the data to support that, and I'm presenting this to HR, take that name out and put in your favorite employee. Now look at all the data and tell me, do you have enough to support your decision? A lot of times people kind of slow down a little bit and they're like, well, I have a bias. Yeah, I feel some sort of way about this. And so kind of getting people to take a minute, slow down a little bit. People want to move so fast and there's a lot going on. And of course, we're all very busy. But the way that I can influence leaders is to make sure that they have all the information they need to make the best decision possible. I'm not going to make a decision for you. I'll give a vote if you want me to. I'll tell you what I would do, but that's not necessarily what you would do. And that's okay. But making sure that they know that I'm here to support you with whatever you decide. If it's something that I think is probably not the best idea, let's pull in legal. Let's make sure there's, not a lot of risk. We want to make sure we're compliant and we're doing things appropriately. But making sure that they know that I'm always going to provide them with information, not judge them for what they have or don't have. And I think that people learn to trust other people by knowing that they're on your side. I'm not here to catch you doing something wrong. I'm not here to say, ooh, nope, you can't do that. I'm here to say, let's talk about it. Show me the information. Let me show you some information. Let's make a as good of an educated decision as we possibly can. And then they know that they can come to me for a consultation. And so I'm going to give them an opinion, an informed opinion, or ask more questions to get that informed opinion, or direct them where they can get more information. So I think the information piece and just knowing that my whole job is support. Something you said, Hong, is, HR gets a bad rap and a lot of people don't like their HR departments. And a lot of times it's how HR presents itself that can lend to that. We're compliance. We're going to tell you when you're doing something wrong. We've got an audit for you. And while we have to do all of those things, it's absolutely accurate and 100% something that's on our job list. That doesn't make a lot of people want to trust you or like you. So if we can also build that relationship and make sure that people feel and hear the support and know that, yes, we are going to audit you and we are going to send you reports and reminders and probably be really naggy and annoying at times. We also want you to feel like we're here to support you when things aren't going right. Like, you can come to us. We're going to help. We're not going to make things worse for you. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A lot of great questions, a lot of good insights shared today. I think we have one last comment here from William. You can also use chat to help you identify what skills you have and convert to specific items in the HR job recs you look at. Yes, that's fantastic. We get great leaders that join us and give these insightful shares. One that we had for the, I think, winter career quest was with a recruiter at John Deere. And he talked about using AI to prepare your resume and then also prepare for interviews. So I would definitely check that one out. That was a good insight share there. But a lot of good positive feedback saying, awesome, thank you, very informative, thank you. So thank you again, Stacey, so much for your time and for all the great insights you shared today. And even just being honest and inspiring with your own story. I think it's a great reminder that you're right. Sometimes the career pathway isn't just ABC, sometimes it's a little detour here, a little detour there, and it's okay because, at the end of the day, it's the stuff that you learned along the way, the great connections you made, and then really I can tell where your passion lies. Like, if I'm thinking of, an ideal HR person, I would want in my team, my company, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's got to be someone like passionate like Stacey. So this was fantastic. If anyone has questions that you think of later on, you can always email us, or Stacey does have her LinkedIn up there as well. So please feel free to connect with her. I did drop that survey form in the chat as well. So if you could just take a minute to fill that out, it's just 2 questions for us. But we'll go ahead and conclude today's session. Thank you all so much for being here and for the great engagement and thoughtful questions throughout. And of course, Stacey, thank you again for sharing your journey and experience with the community. Conversations like these are incredibly helpful because they remind us that career paths aren't always linear. To everyone who joined us today, we truly appreciate you spending part of your day with us. As a quick reminder, we'll be sending this recording out along with that survey. And then if you're interested in looking at additional support, whether it's career guidance, networking opportunities, or connecting with employers, our careers and professional development team is always here as a resource as well. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime. But thank you so much, Stacey. This was incredibly valuable to us. And then wishing everyone a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you so much. It was
Yes.
fun.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Enjoy your fake spring.
Yeah, thanks.